In the 1960s, when the whole world's attention was on the Apollo missions in the United States, at the same time, some very scary experiments were being carried out on our neighboring planet Venus. The Soviet Union, that is, the Russians, planned a suicide mission on Venus. After billions of dollars and years of hard work, they created a probe that would land on another planet for the first time in history and capture its images. But on Venus, the Russian probes faced such hell, which blew the minds of Russian scientists. Today we will learn about those suicide missions on Venus, which revealed the terrifying secrets of Venus. How a small camera lens cover mixed the hard work of the Russians and billions of dollars in dust. What was there that despite having so much technology today, Russia never went back there? Viewers, in the 1960s and 70s, the Cold War was on its peak. There was a competition between America and today's Russia, who would be the king of space. Both countries had to do something in front of the world to show their strength and ability. In this race, America put all its strength on the moon. Of course, Russia had already won some of this race by landing its probes on the moon. But American President John F. Kennedy had promised the world that he would land man on the moon before 1970, which was really a big bet. When the Russians saw that America could really reach the moon, they made their target Venus. Their goal was to prove that if America can go to the moon, then Russia can also step on hell. Until now, scientists thought that Venus and Earth were exactly the same. Both are neighbors, both have almost the same size, and their distance from the sun is also similar. But one difference is clear from a distance. Contrary to Earth, Venus is completely surrounded by clouds. And until then, man did not know what was hidden in these deep clouds of Venus. Even for scientists, it was a secret box. Russia thought that the moon can also be seen through a telescope. If they showed the world the view inside Venus, then maybe it would be a bigger feat than landing on the moon of America. And if sea, forests, or alien creatures are captured on Venus, then it would be a direct victory of the Russians. Thinking the same, the Russians planned 18 missions on Venus. For this, the probe designed by Russia was named Venera, which is called Venus in the Russian language. At that time, one thing was confirmed to the scientists, that the clouds surrounding Venus and its proximity to the sun means that the atmosphere is present there. But no one knew how much this atmosphere was in comparison to Earth. They designed Venera in such a way that it could also tolerate high atmospheric pressure. At that time, whatever experiments the Russians did in the space race, they kept it hidden from the world until it was successful. Otherwise, they would have to face the disgrace of failing. On February 4, 1961, Russia sent its first probe to Venus, but it could not leave the Earth's orbit. Under their policy, they did not tell the world about this failure, but made an excuse for a heavy satellite launch. The Russians also had another policy that they made 2 probes for one mission, so that if one fails, the other can complete the mission. And this time, they made 2 probes, Venera 1 and Venera 2. Their purpose was to fly by Venus, i.e. pass by it and collect some data. On February 12, 1961, Venera 1 was launched. It was the first probe in history to be sent to another planet. But only after 7 days of launch, it lost contact with the Earth. The result was that this silent probe passed 100,000 kilometers away from Venus, but could not send us any data. And it is still wandering around the Sunday 4 years later. On November 12, 1965, Venera 2 was sent. But it was also like Venera 1. As soon as it left the Earth's orbit, its contact was over, and this mission also failed. Here I tell you that in the 1960s, Russia made many more attempts, but all of them failed badly. They were not even given the name Venera. They are called ghost missions in the history of the space race. Now it's Venera 3 and Venera 4's turn. And this year was 1966. This time the Russians made big and powerful probes, which weighed 1 ton. There were 2 parts in them. One bus that would take the probe to the outer atmosphere of the planet, and there was a sphere that would go inside the planet. Many sensors were installed in this sphere. Pressure sensor, which is also called barometer. Gas analyzer, which will find out the gases in the environment of Venus. Thermometer, battery. and 2 antennas to transmit all this data. Venera 3's mission was to check the atmosphere there. There was no intention of soft landing there, nor was there any arrangement for it. That is, it was a suicide mission. But unfortunately, as soon as it entered the terrifying airs of Venus, its system also failed and it could not send any data to the Russian scientists behind it. It was just a crash landing. But on March 1, 1966, Venera 3 became the first man-made object in history that collided with the surface of another planet. Anyway, next year, in October 1967, the Russians were a little successful in Venera 4. It successfully moved towards Venus, and this time without any system failure, it found out that the atmosphere here had the most carbon dioxide gas. Initially, the Russians claimed that Venus's atmosphere was 25 times larger than Earth's. According to them, Venera 4 landed safely on Venus's surface because it also had a parachute in it. But later it was found that as soon as Venera 4 entered Venus's atmosphere, it could not bear the high atmospheric pressure and collapsed like a soda can. Anyway, when the Russians realized that their probes could not land on Venus's surface, they sent Venera 5 and 6 just to hit the air. Because their design was also like Venera 4, they also had parachutes in them, and they would only have 50 minutes in Venus's atmosphere. And during this time, they had to send data. These 2 probes were launched in 1969, and this time too, the result was the same. Before they could get any more information, they were crushed within an hour and destroyed in the air. But the Russians did not give up. This time, they made Venera 7 stronger than ever. This probe was really as strong as a tank. It was so heavy and hard that there was only one purpose for it: to survive on Venus. For the sake of strength, no scientific instruments were installed in it. But maybe Venera's luck was bad. Due to a technical problem during the landing, its switchboard was stuck in such a position that it could only send temperature data. But the Russian scientists were so smart that they only used the temperature data to guess that the atmospheric pressure of the Earth is 90 times higher than that of the Earth. That is, the pressure is deep as 1 kilometer in the sea. Just when Venera 7's landing was near, another problem arose. Its parachute burst, and it fell on Venus's soil at a speed of 17 meters per second. The good news was that Venera 7 survived, and the bad news was that it turned upside down, and its antenna was down. But the Russian scientists did not give up, and despite the antenna being down, they also caught the weak signal in the fallen and broken state. But Venera 7 kept in contact with the Earth for the next 23 minutes from the surface of Venus. In this way, it became the first man-made object in history that landed on another planet's soil and sent a signal from there. But the temperature it detected on Venus's soil set the world on fire. 465 degrees Celsius was recorded on Venus's soil, which is twice as high as the temperature of an oven. Another surprising thing was that when it was falling on Venus, it was continuously sending radio signals to Earth. At that time, Russian scientists noted that there was something here that was pushing Venera 7 from the side. Because of this movement, there was a slight change in radio frequency. This frequency shift is called the Doppler effect, which they calculated and realized that there are stormy winds of 360 kilometers per hour in the atmosphere of Venus, which were pushing the probe to one side. This speed is much higher than the biggest storms on our Earth. Venera 8's mission was more advanced than all previous missions, because now the Russians had found out what kind of terrifying enemies they were facing. 90 times more pressure, storms of 360 kilometers per hour, and hotter than an oven. A gamma spectrometer was installed in Venera 8 to test the soil there, and a light sensor too. And this time it was not at night like Venera 7, but was deliberately landed during the day to find out how much light there is on Venus during the day. The light sensor confirmed that despite the thick clouds, there is so much light on the surface of Venus that things can be seen. With the help of a light sensor, it was found that the sun's light spreads everywhere there, just like we have the time of thick clouds. Venera 8 breathed on Venus soil for 60 minutes. In that period, the heat of 465 degrees and taking out an hour of any machine under such pressure was no less than a miracle. The period from Venera 9 to Venera 12 was the period of the biggest success and the biggest misfortune of Russia. The design of these 4 probes was quite different. A lander weighing more than 5 tons and a strange UFO-like lander. A round box in the middle in which all the delicate electronics were placed so that the heat and pressure could not destroy them immediately. There was a crush ring at the bottom which would pitch up itself at the time of landing and work like a shock absorber. And this is an aero brake that looks like an umbrella above, which will slow it down before landing. There was also something in these probes that everyone was waiting for. Yes, cameras. 2 cameras were installed in each probe so that they could get a 360 view of Venus. But there was a problem at the last moment. After landing, the lens caps did not open. In Venera 9 and Venera 10, only one camera cap opened. Venera 11 and Venera 12 remained alive for 110 minutes, but unfortunately, both lens caps of both probes could not open. They sent a lot of data, but not a single picture. On October 22, 1975, Venera 9 sent the first picture of Venus. It was a historic moment that a human-made machine sent a picture from another planet. The world saw that Venus is not a sandy desert, but a rocky and terrifying land where limestone is scattered. Now it was Venera 13 and Venera 14's turn. This was a great ending of the golden era of the Soviet Union, Russia. These missions showed the world what humans had never seen before. But there was a strange mistake, which is still an example in the history of space. These probes not only had cameras, but also had a microphone. After landing, when the microphone of Venera 13 was opened on the ground of Venus, a voice was heard. For the first time in history, Venera 13 recorded the sound of the winds of another planet and the sound of lightning. It also had a drill and a seismometer. The soil samples there were enough to find out that earthquakes also occur on Venus. Venera 13 also sent a colored picture of Venus for the first time. These pictures alone can tell us today that the sky of Venus is orange and the ground is brownish. But what happened to Venera 14? You will be stunned to hear. A spring-loaded arm was installed in it, which at the time of landing will hit the ground hard to find out how hard the soil of Venus is. But as soon as the lens cap of the camera fell down, it unfortunately fell exactly where the tester arm was supposed to fall. The result of this was that instead of checking the hardness of the ground, it measured the hardness of its own lens cap. Such millions of dollars of hard work was wasted because of a small lens cap. Moving forward, in Venera 15 and 16, Russia changed the strategy of the probes. Where the target of the probes was to land on the ground there, Venera 15 and 16 orbited Venus for 8 months. It had SAR, i.e. synthetic aperture radar, because the clouds of Venus are so thick that no camera can take a picture of this planet. With the help of SAR, a map of Venus's soil was made for 8 months. These last missions revealed the thick clouds of Venus and told us that on this hellish planet, there are 8 to 8 kilometers high mountains and thousands of km long cracks. Because of these Soviet missions, today we can see the complete map of Venus. Of course, America called Russia's Venera missions a failed experiment. But because of them, we learned how hot Venus is. There is 90 times more pressure than Earth. There are clouds of carbon dioxide gas and sulfuric acid in the sky. There are hot winds like stormy hell all the time. And the Earth is filled with rocky and sharp rocks. During the space race, the Soviet Union did so many missions on Venus, many secret to many public, that many people still recognize it as the Soviet planet. In fact, many of the valleys and craters there have been named Russian. If the clouds of Venus are made of sulfuric acid, why can't the rain of sulfur reach the ground there? Answer me in the comment section. I hope you will like and share this video. See you in the next video.